try, and he'll go under the post. It's over! Magnificent again. They have caused the upset of the season.
Away to Spencer. Lovely wrap around Spencer. Oh, beautiful stuff from the Blues. This is turning into a run.
He's a competitor, he loves to express himself. He's an entertainer.
Got a great bounce. Carlos Spencer. Super try.
It was like theatre. He switched on as soon as he walked on the field.
It's going to be there. Spencer. And Robin Brock.
Carlos was like a stage. That's where he performed at his best.
As Spencer puts the little kick back in field.
Probably change the sort of the style of play a first five can play.
Now here's the man with the pace. Spencer. Carlos Spencer will with that.
For Carlos Spencer, growing up in the Horowhenua township of Levin, life was all about sport.
I started rugby at a young age, back when I was 5. Barefoot, running around in the bin there, and I reckon about a good 10 of us that used to get together every now and then and muck around. Whether it was going over to the park and playing a bit of rugby, a bit of touch. We got the opportunity to play other sports, we did. We had a good crew down in Heather Street back in the day. We used to call ourselves the Heather Street Boys, and there was a good contingency of us. I reckon if you went back there now, it should be a totally different street. When I was young, I was probably a little cocky, arrogant. I knew I had something special growing up, and I could do stuff that probably a lot of other boys couldn't. I suppose I was gifted in a way because everything I seemed to do back in those days, it just became quite easy to me. It was just something I fell in love with at a young age, and I suppose when I understood and what I knew what the All Blacks were and who they were, I wanted to be an All Black.
Selection in the New Zealand secondary schools team proved he was one of the best young talents in the game. However, a phone call from Horowhenua coach Scotty Houston would see how this Heather Street boy would cope in the company of men.
Looking back on that experience, I think for me, was awesome because I learned to grow up pretty quickly. They took me in, they made me part of the family straight away, which made it really easy for me as a youngster.
The referee, it's over! Horowhenua dance with joy! They won the 3rd Division Championship.
We were in the 3rd Division and I had a couple of trips down south with the boys, which were pretty eye-opening at that age. Most 16-year-olds wouldn't have got up to the stuff I got up to back in those days. But, it was all part of growing up in that environment, and, mate, I loved it. Absolutely loved it.
A handful of games for the Nua in '92. But by the following season, Carlos would be the starting first five for Horowhenua in its centenary season.
And that's the best kick for some time by Carlos Spencer. What a prospect he is.
As part of the celebrations, Horowhenua, one of New Zealand's smallest provinces, was given a chance to challenge one of the giants of provincial rugby.
That was a real special time in New Zealand rugby when we took the trophy on tour, which was amazing, really. Those Ranfurly Shield days, we could take the trophy on tour and to go to a place like Levin to play Horowhenua. We probably got more enjoyment out of that in terms of what it meant to those little towns and the excitement it brought.
It was around that time, obviously, Graham Henry had taken over from Morris Trapp and BG, and so in that time there was succession planning that was happening over those 2-3 years. And of course Foxy was still playing and towards the end of '93, and by '94 now, obviously Graham was starting to look for another first five that could really take on the reins.
He was certainly a very influential player for them and showed a lot of skill and flair and imagination to play the game.
He was young, I think he was about 16 years old. So he was just a little kid, and he played really, really well against us. And obviously caught the eye of one Graham Henry, but there's another gentleman, the referee, I think Paddy O'Brien, that was one of his first games. And I can remember talking to him after the game about Carlos. And even Paddy had sort of said, God, that number 10 was not bad, is he? So it was the start of a the start of his career, I suppose.
You know, you see a young kid who needs an opportunity, and all due respects to Horowhenua, they weren't going to give him that opportunity going forward, and we were lucky enough to secure him.
The following year, we see this kid turning up in our changing rooms, and there he is. Hey, wasn't it that little kid, snotty-nosed kid that was playing for Horowhenua? Now he's one of us.
He was very unique, had tattoos on his shoulder, he was ripped, he was this, he was cheeky. But when he got out in the field, this boy can play.
Spencer!
He was young, he was quick, he was very different from the great Grant Fox.
Trying to reconcile how he wanted to play his natural game of exuberance and flair with these guys who are saying, this is how we're going to do it. Goodness knows.
You know, from when we first got in the team, you're literally told to sit there, don't say a word, and, you know, earn the respect of the older players, and once you've done that, after about 10 years, we'll let you say something. But that wasn't the scenario, and Zinni was very much he was a flamboyant player himself, liked to try things, and that's where Carlos sort of flourished, really, especially at that level.
Spencer!
And he loved it, and Zinni loved it.
That is a lovely try!
And us more traditional players, I suppose, as long as he did his job, which he did very well, he trained hard, that was acceptable.
I think I was quite lucky because I come into that team probably at the right time, because we had a couple of other young fellas that I'd probably played with before, like Adrian Cashmore through the New Zealand Colts, Charles Rickerman, two guys that, you know, I'm really close with now, and to obviously have guys like that, I suppose, come through that team at the same time probably made things a little bit easier.
It was definitely an environment which, you know, there was still a hierarchy in the team. You knew your place in the changing room. You knew your place on the bus. But all those things, I actually enjoyed that sort of thing. You know, that kind of, you kind of had to earn your respect to get to go in the team.
For Carlos, it was a step up from obviously where he'd come from. No disrespect to where he'd come from, but you know, the work ethic was greater, and he learnt some good traits that, you know, later on in his career, and you even look at him today. He has a really good work ethic, and I'd like to think that some of that came from the environment that we created. You know, it was an amateur team in those days, and we were hugely professional in our attitude. And you know, Carlos turned up and just sort of slipped into that environment and just grew unbelievably. You know, not just physically, but you know, he developed his game, and you know, he flourished.
Auckland won the First Division title in 1994. The following year, with Spencer filling right at home, they again won top honours. They also won the Ranfurly Shield. The kid from Levin was fast becoming a local hero in the city of Sales, as well as gaining nationwide attention.
They ripped the Ranfurly Shield off us. They flogged us. They were way too good for us that day. We snuck it off Waikato the year before, and you know, held it for a few times before Auckland came down and just butchered it off us, and then, you know, won the title that year at provincial level. So they were setting the benchmark then, and for him to be leading that group just showed you the class that he was, and also what he was going to do in the future.
It was sort of easy, if you know what I mean, because I had the calibre players around me, which made my job a whole lot easier. And you know, I just had to play my game really, and the good thing, I suppose, was with Ted, he let me do that. He knew the sort of player I was, and he let me play my game.
Sensational!
That was his stage. He just wanted to express himself, you know, so he could do things that weren't in the program, if you like, which was fantastic. Made coaches look good.
By the end of the 95 season, Spencer was an All Black, playing 3 midweek games after being called into the team as an injury replacement on the tour of France and Italy.
It seemed quite odd to us that a person like Laurie Mains would call in someone like Carlos Spencer, who was probably the antithesis of everything Laurie was about. And while he wouldn't have been able to put a lot of time into him on that tour, the fact that he picked him and selected him showed that already he was in the national selectors' thinking.
I think the selectors getting him involved was a way to sort of get him to grow into the player that he did. And 95 was, I think, the perfect environment for him with the midweek games over in France, in Italy. So I wasn't surprised, but I was very impressed by what I saw when he turned up, for sure.
That's try number 5 for the All Blacks.
Then, with rugby turning professional and the birth of Super Rugby, life for Spencer and every leading player in the game would be a whole lot different.
The new face of rugby's professional provincial competition and the release of a gruelling 2-month schedule. There are 11 rounds plus the semis and a final, making up 69 games. The tournament's opening match is on March 1st between Auckland and Wellington, under lights in Palmerston North, finally culminates the end of May. The rigorous schedule will see 20 midweek games played in this country alone.
We were all playing rugby and we all did it because we loved it. And one of the things when you're in any changing room, whether it be a provincial changing room or a club changing room, is you got that cross-section of society. You know, you had the students, the builders, everybody, lawyers, and I suppose when rugby went professional, nothing changed. Like, we were there at a provincial level doing what we loved, and then someone came along and said, here's some money for it.
The Super 12 kicks off the professional era. The players are ready, the crowd is ready. This is Super 12. This is the Hurricanes against the Blues. This is live on Sky.
2 years earlier, or probably even a year earlier, you would have thought we would have been playing professional rugby, you know, a Super 12 competition and getting paid for it.
You could just hear all the fireworks and the roar in the crowd, and you know, and there was just that real excitement. And I think when we went out there and it all just exploded, and that welcome into professional rugby was an amazing time to be part of.
Paddy O'Brien starts the watch and we're away. Professional rugby is alive.
It was a special moment. Obviously great to come through that era when it just had obviously turned professional and to be a part of it.
And this will be an interesting battle here in the lineouts, and it's going on.
Yeah, with the game going professional in 95, 96, it was a real opportunity for players like Carlos to really express themselves and just enjoy life, I suppose. And he was a consummate professional. A lot of people see it as had a bit of a fun time. But yeah, sure, he had a fun time. But in terms of dedication to the task, he was a huge contributor to our success with Auckland and especially with the Blues.
He was probably that first modern-day professional that really started to understand about what supplements, what looking after yourself, what recovery can do to help you to play and train.
In one. Spencer finds space and support. Errol Brain ranging, finds Lomu. So this is a great attack from the Auckland Blues, and it's a try!
The strength across that Auckland team with Henry and Mac McCallion was quite incredible. It was pretty apparent. If they didn't win the title in the first year, there would be some major questions.
So will he go himself? No, but Lee Stensness will. Zinzan Brook. Another one of the big passes from Brook. Goes right out to centre. Clark stands one up and finds space for Jones. Oh, great hands, Vinderi. Joeli Vinderi, that's a hat-trick for the big man.
We had the best scrum, we had the best line out at that time too. We knew that as backs, it was something that we could really launch off. And when you think about the calibre of backs that we had from, you know, Ofisa, Carlos, Lee Stensness, Johnny Ngawamo, myself and Jonah, Joeli. Boy, this is well scripted for Super Rugby.
At the time, they were, they were the benchmark. They were setting the standard in those early years. I think of guys like Zinni, Fitzy, and Carlos. I guess defining how Super Rugby was being played, and it just took everybody by storm.
He dummies, slips it back, and it's a try to Vinderi. Try number 2 to the big Fijian.
I probably had the best seat in the house because I could see it all just happen in front of me. The sound of bone crunching, trying to put the big hits on Jonah, and him just blasting through brick walls. It was just a fabulous thing to see, and a lot of our planning and losses to see was just to get the ball in those two guys' hands early, and that'll just spread the field, and we just go and run and back them up, and then we just see what opens up from there. With Carlos's flamboyancy, with Junior Tanu inside him, and then Zin's out of the mould as well. Carlos is out of the mould, and joined by Junior, which connected them both. It was a pretty awesome trio. But, you know, Carlos sort of brought a new perspective of, you know, what a first five should be, could be, can be. He was sort of, you know, electrifying at times and did things that no other first five did. Not all of them came off, but he gave everything a go.
He had the ability to see things that probably a lot of 5'8" didn't see. And so he was a player, obviously, that's going to change how you played the game, just by his presence.
Oh, magnificent again! Carlos Spencer.
You played to a certain structure, obviously, to a certain system that you had for the team. And then after that, it was kind of, what's Carlos going to do? Shall I stand here? Well, Carlos, what are we doing, you know?
I always wanted to create stuff. I wanted to be the one to create stuff for others. I wanted to put people through holes, you know what I mean? That was the way I wanted to be. Mate, I was just one of those players that, give me the ball. I want to create something for my mate on the inside or my mate on the outside.
Early on, it was just like, get him the ball. Like, you put him on the front foot and you can't stop him. Like, literally, you can't stop him.
Stacked up on the short side, Spencer again. Oh, brilliant from Spencer.
In one of the games, we were playing and we created a bit of an overlap with numbers, and I picked the ball up from the back of the ruck and I ran and I was trying to find space and I ended up getting tackled. And he comes up to me and he goes, mate, he's like, give me the ball. I was like, mate, we had an overlap. He's like, give me the ball.
No, that's not your job, mate. Hey, nah, if he did, and then I'd make sure that I'm bloody trailing him, mate, to get the next pass. And it was like, mate, I wanted, if we were doing a backline move, I wanted to get my hands on the ball again. You know what I mean? I wanted to touch the ball twice. That was my mindset. Touch the ball twice. When I bloody passed it, get a support, get your hands on the ball again. And that was my mindset. You know, I just wanted to get my hands on the ball, and I went looking for it every time.
Some days he would just guide us around the field like, you know, like it was a book. Other days, there was literally no pages in this book. You just had to just go with it. And it worked, you know, both ways worked.
I remember him the first time he, you know, went crossfield just doing a normal sort of 1-2 cut. And he's going across field and he's throwing the ball up to himself like he's throwing it to the player, and then caught it again. And everyone's going, what the hell? You know, that's the type of flamboyant nature that he brought to that position. And it also made him hard to mark because he was quite prepared to do it from anywhere.
He was a nightmare because it wasn't just as a running mobility one-on-one and picking off mismatches, but actually he could light up the people outside him, and that made him formidable and their backline a nightmare.
I just had to find him wherever he was. 1 minute he's there, next minute he's there. He's in different lengths and widths of passing, but you tend to just run with it and something will happen.
All these wonderful things that, you know, we saw in practice, and then, you know, to see it again and come off in big matches, you know, was a real joy to watch.
He was genuinely fearless when it came to the result. I think he believed in himself so much because of the work he'd done that he could do these sorts of things.
Hey, a lot of it was probably just stuff I tried, and then some of it was stuff I seen, and maybe some of it was like the thing off the knee was an idea from Jimmy Blair, our trainer. He just comes up to me one day, oh, you should try a knee kick. Oh, a knee kick. Oh yeah, I'll give it a go. So I just tried it in a game, and here it is. I'm doing knee kicks. Bloody everybody match until they tell me it's a bloody knock on and can't do it anymore. I say, whatever.
Yeah, I think he learned a lot from Zinny. Zinny taught him a lot. And I can guarantee you, Zinny will say, yes, I bloody did. Seriously, I think Zinny did teach him a lot. Just that competitive edge that, you know, no matter who you are, we're going to take you on. And the banana kicks was a classic example, but that's what we did. Everything was a competition.
Carlos was an X-Factor player. Zin was an X-Factor player. You know, if you need 3 or 4, 5 in the team, that influenced the outcome of a game. And, you know, he was definitely one of those guys.
This is Spencer all the way. Spencer scores, and this will probably...
In-house, we were not as confident as a lot of people might have thought, in particular the last rounds of the Super 12. We had a horrible run from playing in Transvaal at the time.
Good work by Conbrook, Henny LaRue, and he finds Pilar!
We'd lost in the midweek to Galtine Lions, who was at the bottom of the table, then which put us third. After that Galtine Lions game, Graham Henry took us into the room and just said, we are not going to leave this room until we sort out what's happening with this team. And so we had one of those moments, one of those team meetings where everything was just brought out in the open, and some real honest, deep, dark places that people had to go to and get pulled out of to really sort ourselves out. And it was because of that put us back on track going into that game that we had to win against Natal.
Feeds it out to Spencer. Spencer down the line. That was a Ronnie Clark coming up at pace is Joe Badiri. Badiri has not got the pace, but he gives it inside the Cashmore. Oh, what a brilliant try for Auckland, and what a comeback. Blowers pops it up to Stensness. Stensness, the little chip and chase. This is danger. Stensness is away. To both for the best days and might haul him down before the line. Great tackle from him. It's been knocked forward, but it's a try. It's a try, and it's a Ronnie Clark. They are now guaranteed to be in front of the Eden Park faithful in the semi-finals.
Winning that game in the dying seconds of the match, that really sealed it for us. I think that's really where the Blues had come of age, where the Blues had that real sense of belief now that we're going to go on and we can win this competition.
For me, I knew that we were going to win the whole thing by then. The team, pretty awesome that game against Natal. Then we came back home and the rest is pretty much history,
Now just listen to the crowd.
We came into that game with this air of confidence. We knew the expectation of one another. We knew that what we had to do. With Jim Blair, Graham Henry, the management team had set us up really well during the week to go into that game with this air of confidence that we were just going to play to the standard, and we'll get the result.
Away for Lamu. Now here's a chance on Hubert. Lamu.
As the game went on, I mean, it was wonderful. We were able to really play some great football.
Cashmore tries to run round Atherton. Blowers was very close. Here's trouble. Lamu will go all the way here. Unless Small can run him down. Teichmann's made a great chase. What a terrific tackle. And Carlos Spencer gets the try.
Carlos thrived in that game, and we really saw Carlos in the final of the inaugural Super 12, that we saw him thrive. We saw him just the long raking kicks, the stepping, the backing up, setting up tries that we'd run off him and just score. We really saw Carlos Spencer thrive in that too as well.
That's an Ronnie Clark special. The game will be all over, and it is. And the Auckland Blues win the initial Super 12. That is a convincing victory, 45 points to 21.
To win that first title, awesome. But winning the first Super Rugby, something new, first competition, professional rugby, to win that, was pretty special.
With the success of 1996, going into the following season as Super 12 champions, the big question was, could the Blues do it again? Or was there a team out there that could stop the Auckland-based juggernaut?
Well, I think we still had pretty much the same team in 97, so we still had the players there. Coaching staff was still there, and Ted and Mac. So it was just a matter of, I suppose, putting a little bit of pressure on ourselves mentally and just working a little bit harder for each other.
We wanted to be better than before, so it really did help us to launch into a new season. One is the current champions, but also two, that this is a whole new season. What more can we do?
The 97 season was one of the best in Blues history. Undefeated in 11 round robin matches, scoring 435 points along the way. Once again, Carlos Spencer and the rest of the Blues set the standard in the early days of professional rugby.
And can they make
as Carlos Spencer will get into try number 2, and that is brilliant rugby by the men from Auckland.
Away for Fitzpatrick, Zinzan, Spencer, Vindieri, it's another one. Tonu'u again, Spencer, brilliant try, Carlos Spencer.
Their reactions are so quick Stensness, and Carlos Spencer giving chase. Can Carlos Spencer control, because he'll get in for the try? That is another brilliant individual try by the Auckland fly half.
Now Tonu'u, Spencer to Stensness, tackle made there by Mangruzia, Spencer in the gap, now the kick and chase, Carlos Spencer, got a great bounce, Carlos Spencer, super try. He's gone in over the top of the ball, and he's killed it. Zinzan takes it quickly. Zinzan in the gap. And the captain gets the second try. Blues have it. Tonu'u finds Stensness. Now Vindieri, he's on his own, and he'll get another one. Hacked ahead by Carlos Spencer. Ball's all over the place. Stensness is going to Wilson. Whoops. And a try is scored by Carlos Spencer. And Auckland are heading for the final, 55 points to 36. So we're almost set to go. Super 12 final 1997. The Auckland Blues against the ACT Brumbies. Referee Tupper Henning signals time on, and away we go. Sets it for Tonu'u. Zinzan Brook. Just about, but not quite. Ball is there. Craig Dowds.
Very effectively done.
Now Gregan gets it away for Howard. Intercept! Michael Jones. And he loves it.
Better on that time.
Coker. Robinson helps to drive him on a bit. Now Gregan pops it away. Rock in the clear. Joe Rock, he's away. This will be try number 15 in Super 12 for Joe Rock. Blindside. Larkham in the clear. Away for Rock. Does he get one last go at it? And Knox can't hold the pass. And they'll go to the line out. No, Henning looks at the watch, and the Auckland Blues have retained their Super 12 title.
Well played, Carlos. Half an hour scoreless, bit of pressure on.
Yeah, definitely. We knew it was going to be like that, especially with the weather the way it was. We thought it wouldn't be a high-scoring game, and we're just glad with the result.
It was a long time coming. It took us about 30 minutes to score the first try. Very pleasing result, and the guys are pretty focused for this game, so it's a very good result.
Congratulations, Zinzan. Well done.
Thanks very much. Cheers.
After winning his second Super 12 title, Spencer's year went from good to great, as the ultimate accolade, an All Blacks Test jersey, was his.
Carlos had incredible ability as a player. You know, he did things that players at First Five had never done, and he's still got some skills that other First Fives have never had.
Chance for Spencer in space. Wilson. Now the kick.
He probably just needed to learn to play the game for the team and become understand the team game. He was always taken away as a young player with an opportunity, to grow. And I think that's where he started. And he became a mercurial First Five.
Spencer's in.
The All Blacks had a lot more structure, and to him, structure was good, and he loved structure. But the ability to play outside it, play what you see, was his big thing. I think that's probably where the disconnect came a little bit between him being one of the best Super Rugby players the game's ever seen. To the All Black, that people said, sheesh, he had a good season that year, or he had a good season that year, but he wasn't that consistent thing. And there was another guy called Andrew Mertens, which was pretty good and played a lot more structured, and
I was a bit more conservative nature, so while I felt I had good ball skills and good handling skills, good passing and whatnot, I wasn't really prone to trying to do too much. So, Loss had those skills from whether it was touch rugby or sevens rugby or a combination. Was a wizard with anything, spinning the ball on his fingers and stuff like that. So, certainly had a lot more of that kind of skill, like I sort of call it controlled helter-skelter, where, it keeps the defence guessing. The defence can never relax with a player like Loss around. It was always very exciting to play against him and play alongside him, to be honest, too.
Deep in All Black territory, Muliaina. Spencer looking to open.
If Carlos was playing today, he'd be ideal for the modern environment, because he's a player who had to make things happen, see things, and that's the way the game's played these days, more so than it was 30 years ago. So he's probably a wee bit ahead of his time.
Oops, running back towards the big man.
By the start of the 1998 season, Spencer was the face of the Blues. Injury to Sean Fitzpatrick and Zinzan Brook forced him into retirement. And, as it was during the previous season, Jonah Lomu's appearances were sadly limited.
And it looks as though the Blues are going to get this too.
The Blues again dominated the round robin. However, the gap was closing between them and the rest of the pack.
And Cashmore gets across.
And one particular team, who had struggled during the early days of Super Rugby, now believed they were on the right track.
We established ourselves, the Crusaders, in that third year of Super as a defensive side. We didn't have the X-factor players that the Blues or the Hurricanes had. We just didn't have them. So we built our foundation, and the big part of our foundation in the early parts of our success on defence. We just said to ourselves, look, as many times as Jonah or Christian Cullen or Tana Umaga or Carlos Spencer want to run at us, we'll just keep knocking them over. And we'll knock them over for 25 phases, and then we'll see how patient they are.
In round 5, at Lancaster Park, the Crusaders put their defence and the Blues' patience to the test. Patience was the victor in the form of a 31-24 win to the Blues.
Robin Brook, Lomu, the big fellow is in for the first try.
But the Crusaders did show they could make life difficult for the reigning champions and would be no pushover should they meet later in the season.
Now they clear it again, and it's Sambai Matson.
The class of the Blues made them the competition leaders and once again, the team to beat.
To the line again, not quite. Where's the ball? It's going to be there. Spencer, and Robin Brook. Brook clears it out for Spencer. Edmonds going back, chased by Spencer. He's got to release it. Spencer's got it back. Tanu should make it. And does.
Meanwhile, the Crusaders were entering new territory. After 2 seasons of struggle, Todd Blackadder and co were now a force to be reckoned with.
Berryman's got a chance. Berryman has beaten Cullen, and Norm Berryman brings up the third try. Strong tackle. They might have turned him too. No, it's been ripped away. Penalty goes to the Crusaders. That'll be it, I'm sure. It is. Crusaders in the final. Much better that time from the Blues forward pack. Now Spencer. Clark on the bust. He's got Cashmore in support. Now he finds Cashmore. He'll be too quick. That's a brilliant try. And the Blues make the final in 1998 for the third consecutive year. And here we are now down to the final 2 in Super 12 1998, the Crusaders and the Blues, as the Crusaders come on to Eden Park. So here they come, the defending champions, the Auckland Blues. Control of it. Jones delivers up to Carter. Thorne takes him in centre field. Tanu'u, pass in front of Spencer. So Stensness has to go back. Look for him to accelerate. Here he goes. Lee Stensness and James Christian comes up with the first try off the break by Lee Stensness. Fielded by Ralph. Flings it immediately to Cashmore. Drop kick from Adrian Cashmore. Crowd like it, and why not? Adrian Cashmore. Now it's back for Mertens again. To Marsh. Marsh looks for Lilly. Lilly tips it ahead. Ralph. Brooke getting back. Tackled hard. And here's a chance as Maxwell throws it. Maxwell! The long legs of Neil Maxwell.
Hold on to your hat, ladies and gentlemen. This game's not over.
Big penalty awarded by Paddy O'Brien. It's a shot at goal. He's nailed it. 11.5 minutes remaining. Inside Blues territory. Freed up to Mertens. There's an advantage being played. Feeney on the outside. Dragged down by Rush. And he'll go back for the penalty. Well, the back line changes.
Number 4 on the side.
What a kick from Andrew Mertens. 10 out from the 22. Flynn to Mertens. Punches it forwards. Bounces up to Nu'u. It's loose. It's a try. James Kerr's got the try. That might just about do it. Here they come now. Stensness. He should have moved it as well. Spencer. Jones pops it back. Vinderi. Ralph, they're closing him down. Flynn makes the tackle. It's tight in there. This will be it. It is it. Super 12 champions, the Canterbury Crusaders.
When you look at that game, I think we were pretty comfortable and we probably looked like we were going to win it. And, you know, it was just one little moment that went wrong for us at the end. And to lose it, I suppose, like we did, after probably being in control most of the game, is gut-wrenching, you know what I mean? Especially when we could have done it three times in a row, you know what I mean? So it was hard to swallow.
Today, they are Rugby Super 12.
But, you know, that's the game. And you just got to take the opportunities, and the Crusaders took it. They won their first title of many. That was the start of it for the Crusaders, thanks to us. So they can thank us for that.
Congratulations to you, the Canterbury Crusaders, Ubix Super 12 champions, 1998.
There'd been almost a belief that the rite of passage was the three-peat, and it was a foregone conclusion. Here was the rise of another rugby franchise that was going to compete and give the Blues some serious grief for some time.
Mertens has it, and that's it. Desperate defence from the Crusaders. They hang on, and it's a 22-16 victory, an enthralling win for the defending champions. And it's all over. The arch rivals have been beaten. 4 points have been claimed. 32-20, the final score.
Marshall again for Mertens. On the inside to Caleb Ralph and Brad Meeker. The ball is down from Auckland. Scores against his old mates. And they've come out with a 30-11 win.
You know, the great thing about the Canterbury Auckland Blues Crusader rivalry, it's the yin and yang of everything. the people are different, the ethos is different, the way we play rugby is nearly different, you know. And so you whack him in the middle of it and it's like, he's the perfect guy to dislike.
Naturally, most of them sort of got stuck into Carlos when he came down, and he became the point of Canterbury supporters' vitriol towards Auckland in general.
I mean, they hated him, right? It's not a great place to play down there. Like, I walked off a field at half-time once and got spat on by a little kid, and like the parents were like, "Yeah, well done." Like, it was horrible.
I think that's part of the aura of Lancaster Park, isn't it? Is when they come down, they need to feel the crowd has got a disdain for them.
In saying that, we didn't have a lot of love for them too. So it goes both ways.
That's the best part about it, mate. That's the best part about it. Because if you're good, people don't like you. That's the reality of life, and he did. He dictated results and he won. I mean, I went down to Christchurch. I loved it. How they loved me, I don't know, but I loved it. And they're passionate about their team. You know? How else do you show it apart from, you know, showing you don't like someone?
They do love me. They do love me down there. They might not show it all the time, but they do love me.
They hated him. They hated him for it because he wasn't black and white. He was a little bit different, and good on him. You're allowed to be different.
You can bleep this out, I suppose. But anyway, no, but he was a real pain in the ass. And the way he played, he dominated the field, and he was. I suppose the crowd felt he was obnoxious and all of that, but he backed it up with the way he played. And so again, there's more hatred to throw at the guy because he comes down and he dominates our turf.
That brought the best out of Carlos. He thrived on those situations because I think he was one of the guys that worked well under pressure.
Oh, it's gone astray, putting themselves under enormous pressure. Mark Hammett is the chaser and doesn't quite have the wheels, and Spencer makes the clearance.
When you get a guy like that who comes down to the enemy turf and actually continues to swagger and continues to dominate, it's flippin' frustrating, isn't it, for the fans in particular? But when you're on the field, it's like, how do we contain this?
For Spencer and the Blues, the next few seasons will be ones of change and frustration. Graham Henry was gone as coach.
Graham Henry's departure isn't without controversy. Those who believe he's betraying the game at home.
I'm going to coach Wales, and I'm leaving tonight.
Also, teammates like Ofisa Tonu'u were not wanted by the new coaching regime. There was a time of rebuilding, and the building was slow.
The Blues season in '99 was, that's probably the worst. I mean, it was the worst that worst season that I've had with the Blues.
It was hugely tough because a lot of experience left that year. Like Graham left as coach, and you lost Zinni and Fitzy, and pretty much half the team left. And everyone that was brought in was young and raw, so it was a hard year. I guess you call us kids. Like we weren't hardened rugby professionals. There was a few left over, but yeah, they had to carry a lot of inexperience, and it just was a little bit of a recipe for disaster, really.
Try and use it! Marshall.
From 1999 to 2002, the Blues were either mid-table or near the bottom of the Super 12 ladder.
Oh, what a magnificent try!
On field, it was a tough time for Spencer, who, despite the struggles of the Blues, was still one of the most marketable players in the game.
Now you can indulge yourself to the extreme. Even more tempting. New Toffee Pop Extreme.
What was it like first training after that aired the night before?
To be honest, I can't even remember. Wouldn't have been great, I tell you. There probably would have been a packet of toffee pops waiting in my locker for me.
He did well. I think all the guys gave him a little bit of a hard time, but he was probably happy about those zeros in his bank account, maybe.
Man, if I had a body like him, I would have done the same.
I'd have to switch it off before Nadia walked in the room. That's normally the main thing to do.
He was ripped, he had a washboard. Same with Adrian Cashmore, And we us forwards always carried a little bit on us. We saw them in the change. So, oh God, is that what we should look like?
There was another kind of biscuit over there called Mallow Puffs, big round ones, and so maybe that might have been more my sort of category.
Not a traditional rugby body as well, Like as I said, he was 10 years in front of professionals before it became professional.
We were training one morning at 6:30 in the morning. Right, finished about 9. We headed home, got changed, and I was heading down on the motorway, hopping the motorway to go down to Coca-Cola and down in Panmure there. And as I was turning left, this beautiful new Ford Ute turned up next to me. I had Carlos sitting there, shirt off, and might have a singlet on. Hi Fitzy, and turned around. He turned right, and on the back of his new Ute, he had a brand new jet ski, and he was heading off onto the west coast for the day. And I'm looking at him thinking, there's something wrong here. But he had it right, and that was just Carlos to a T.
As he did on the field, he sort of defined how to, be a pro off pitch. Obviously there were marketing opportunities that he benefited from, and I think he was certainly always generous with his perks that came his way. So, look, again, I think a trailblazer, in that space for New Zealand rugby.
After 4 years in charge of the national team, Graham Henry is leaving Wales and returning to New Zealand. Once dubbed the Great Redeemer after guiding the Welsh to 11 straight victories in 1999, Henry now returns to Auckland, where all eyes will be on the Blues and whether they look to secure Henry's services. Since Henry's departure in 1998, the Blues have failed to make even the semi-finals of the Super Rugby competition. Henry, working in conjunction with Peter Sloane, could be just the tonic the struggling franchise needs.
I'd worked with Ted before, and I know what a coach he is and what a guy he is and what he brings to a team. So, man, to obviously hear he was coming back was, mate, just a tremendous, I wouldn't say relief, but just something that the Blues needed, you know what I mean?
Because he'd started with Graham, I guess, he felt that rapport and the trust that Henry and the faith Henry had shown in him, I guess.
I think Graham was awesome for him. He took all of that, I guess, energy and moulded him a little bit. I'd played with Carlos under other coaches and they weren't able to do that. They weren't able to keep him controlled as much.
I'm sure Carlos leant on Graham a bit and said, look, I've had it rugby for years. What do I need to do to get this sorted? And between them and Sloane, they certainly did.
Tui Tupou, Spencer running onto it, trying to run around the hooker. Still going. Oh, Spencer's still got it. Carlos Spencer queuing up inside him. Muliaina.
We had an awesome pre-season. Boys had worked hard. We had guys that could carry. We had guys that could play. We had guys that could distribute. We had a forward pack that was starting to dominate. So going into that 2003 season, we started feeling, pretty good about ourselves and started to get a bit of confidence back in ourselves.
If I look through the team list, the ability was exceptional, right through, 1 to 32, led certainly ably as a backline by Carlos. We had a lot of strike power, a lot of ability, but I guess it was that measure, that temperament to be able to use it and pull it back when needed, and certainly that's what Carlos brought in that 2003 year.
The elements certainly were there for success, but as early as round 2, the Blues were confronted with a season-defining situation.
It's Troy Flavel who's in trouble. Number 4. He's off. He's out of here.
Using your foot on the head of a player is not on. No, you're leaving the field, you're off to the red. It's on? Yes.
That was kind of the turning point. You always look back on certain games when you have seasons like we did. I always say I go back to that game right there. And I think that was the making of that season, was that game. When we played 40 men for, I think it was probably 70 minutes.
Devine again, Spencer, Carlos Spencer, the no-look pass in field to Bray. Paddy O'Brien's playing advantage again, picked up by Devine! Now Devine takes over. Out of the short side, Rapini just stabs the kick through and he's after it, sets up for him, Rapini! Oh, he's magnificent, this man! And the Blues have won. What a game it has been.
Absolutely outstanding from the Blues.
Carlos and the Blues went on to win 10 of 11 round robin matches that season, averaging over 35 points a game and playing the sort of rugby that reminded Blues fans of the early days of Super 12.
Tui Tupou, now they swing it wide. Here it comes, Spencer to Doug Howlett. Oh, intercepted by Spencer! Here's the finishing flourish for the Blues!
That was probably one of the standout years Carlos has ever had.
This is a brilliant victory!
You know, in his career, he was simply on fire.
Away to Spencer. Lovely wrap around Spencer! Oh, beautiful stuff from the Blues. This is turning into a rout.
Carlos Spencer. And he sends the pass off to Rocco Foto. Here comes a big burst. What a great sidestep. Kick and chase. And he's put it out on the foot, has he? No, it's not out yet. Spencer back inside to Tui Tupou. Close to the line. Tui Tupou.
Like, we had good confidence, and whether that was because we had players like Loss running the ship and Rushy, getting our pack going in Case and Graham. Like, Graham's basically just go out there and play and enjoy the moment.
Good positional play too. And just look at that lovely running by Spencer. Got himself into a good spot. Not easily tackled, and just look at this now. Down it goes. He has a chance now. Rico Kier just stepped up one, and then it's Sam Tupou.
Placed nicely. There's a few forwards out here, and the Blues can run it. Carlos Spencer, he's got the foot down, and he's in. And the game is over. The Blues have confirmed their position at the top of the table.
Now Spencer, Muliaina, Spencer, he's got Howlett with him. Devine! Steve Devine scores for the Blues. Spencer onto Muliaina, trying to fend his man off, has done so. Muliaina! Brilliant try by Mills Muliaina. Inside the 22, Devine. Spencer. Oh, beautifully done. What a wonderful try.
Being in a final is a wonderful experience. You know, we knew we were in for a game. Although we were certainly, had one eye on the teams we were playing, before we even got to playing against the opposition team, you had to earn your spot on the field. And look, that was one of the great things that I remember about that year, and how we all sort of helped each other along, and buying in for that greater good.
Downtown Auckland, as New Zealand's largest city, prepares to stage the Super 12 final for 2003. No doubt the best two sides have emerged from this 12-team competition. The Blues have been the pace setters right from the start of the competition, while the Crusaders, after a slow start, have reached their peak at the right time. So all in readiness now for the Super 12 final of 2003.
Mate, we were buzzing because it was the Crusaders and it was a home game for us. When you win titles, you want to beat the best. And at that time, Crusaders were the best. And it's the team that everyone wanted to beat.
And we're almost set to go.
I wouldn't want it any other way. To play a team that, you've got a lot of respect for, but a rivalry's massive and it's someone you never want to lose against. To have that opportunity to play them in the final was is an ideal final for me.
Murray Mexted and the Super 12 final for 2003 is underway, and Daniel Carter puts it away to the blind side, if you like, taken down by Doug Howlett.
We knew they were a good side and that we would have to play well, and if we gave them too much space, they were capable of beating us. And I remember having a good talk to Robbie about it, because we were talking massively about defence and how we were going to try and shut them down, but they were just on song and they had an edge about them. We thought we could maybe knock their confidence a little bit, and that had worked in the past. Didn't work.
Right, looking for a good scrum here, the Blues. They've kept it straight on this occasion. Much better. Now Gibson off to Spencer. Turns and puts the kick in. McDonald waits. And the ball just knocks forward by Gus Collins. Oh, boy. So Mark Hammond. This time it's straight to Brad Thorne. They work to move nicely to Hammett. He's got a man on the inside. Hammett, they join him in. And Hammett to the line. There's the first try. Beautifully worked. The All Blacks used it last year, Robertson and Hammett, and the Crusaders have pulled it out in the final.
I just think that the pressure of that final, possibly we thought would be enough for them to fold.
Chance here for Mark Hammett.
They actually grew a backbone, and were prepared to stay in the fight with us.
Bit untidy, but now it comes for Gibson, and very nearly again. Now Muliaina frees it up. Here's a chance. Gear. He's got Howlett on the inside, and Doug Howlett.
They hadn't won a final for a while, so to have confidence leading into the final when you haven't been in the big dance for a bit, it takes a bit of ticker. But you know, they certainly didn't get overawed by the occasion, whereas we were veterans at finals by then.
I suspect it is. What's the call going to be here from Andre Watson? Early tackle.
Look, it's a trench back. You thought he was going to get the ball. Don't pull him before the ball. Okay? Just go back 10. Don't play him without the ball.
Perfect view of this as Spencer drills it through the centre. And the Blues lead by 4. Having a real go here with about 4 metres to go. To the line they go, the try is scored. Now let's try and sort out who did it. Could be Daniel Braid. Looking to shift that, and Carter stretching, and he's not there. No, hang on. He may be there. And it's going to be a decision made upstairs. There's the man upstairs. And he's lost it forward. That's the call. He didn't control it.
Beautifully laid back.
Awkward pass, well snapped up by Mertens. They've got a chance out to the left here as Marshall keeps going. Now McDonald for the corner, and he's lost it. Here's a go at the line by Marshall. The ball bounces back. Oh, great hands, but I don't think he's got it down.
In the air, no advantage.
Playing advantage.
Mertens was standing outside unmarked. How they never scored, I'll never know.
Here's Marshall, fires the pass. Here's the try, is it surely? Yes. Try is scored by Caleb Ralph.
Well, it took him a while to get the ball down. The master. Well, that's why you have a player like Mertens in your team. 21-15 to 21-17. A try will win this game.
Marshall's going to tap. Big tackle by Rush on Hammett. Oh, that's a huge tackle. Not only was the tackle big, but the fact that they couldn't release it. And it's Blues ball now. Carlos Spencer. Just keep an eye on Carlos Spencer. I think we might have a drop kick coming up shortly.
Well, he's gone right back behind the scrum here. Carlos Spencer is directing proceedings. He's the key here.
They're out of the blocks very quickly, the Crusaders. He's run to the touchline. The game is over. The Blues have won the Super 12 title in 2003.
Jubilation.
been here, but the boys are proud to have repaid your faith. This is your team, and this is our trophy. Thank you very much.
Well, Carlos, you've had many great memories out on this park, but this you're right up there, I would imagine.
No, it doesn't feel any better than winning against the Crusaders, I suppose. If you wanted to play a final and win, it would have to be against the Crusaders. So we've done that, so that's made it all so much pleasing. So we're just happy.
Carlos, you've had a great year. I guess it means a big celebration too. We'll let you get started, eh?
Oh, definitely. Cheers, mate. We will do. Thanks. Cheers, mate.
A third Super Rugby title for Spencer, and with it, his status as a Blues legend was sealed. Sadly for Carlos and the Blues, the good times didn't last long. 2004 season was beset with injury, and whilst there were flashes of the brilliance of 2003, the team simply didn't play well enough to make the playoffs. However, there was one match that brought out the best in Carlos and the Blues.
Oh, he's away. Good pass, intercept. Spencer, he got one last year in Albany, and he's going to get another one tonight.
I knew that time was almost up, and I think before that scrum went down, I think there was only probably about a minute and a half to go, and we were in front, not by much. It might have been 3 points, I think, 3 or 4 points in front, and then plan A, kick it out. It's probably the best option. Instead of going left, I decided to go right, throw a bit of a rainbow pass to Rocks, I think it was.
I can tell you that ball missed the goalpost by, I reckon, 0.5 millimetre. Another coat of paint, and she would have been we'd still be talking about it, but probably for a different reason.
Fortunately, he's in a bit of space, darts up the pitch. I think he makes it just over the 22 somewhere and gets an offload off to Gus Collins.
Oh, he didn't pass it, but he's found Collins in support. Spencer! Oh, this is amazing!
First thing that crosses my mind, I need to obviously kill a bit of time. So I knew no one was following him behind, so I just brought to the sideline.
Carlos Spencer twists the knife in the in-goal area.
Very Carlos, I think we were all there before any Crusader player was anywhere near, and we were all walking to the corner before he put it down.
Didn't even dot it, walked around, and it was kind of funny because it's like, is he going to put this down? And he didn't. So there's about 4 of us just following him like sheep, and we're like, okay.
But they just wanted me to put the bloody ball down. They probably cursing in the back of me, put the ball down, you idiot.
Geez, that's good. It was so good in front of the home crowd of Lancaster Park, and they were ropeable. They could have it could have been a riot that day.
You waved to the crowd too.
I did wave to the crowd, and the only reason why I waved to the crowd is because as I went to put down that ball, I saw a coin land in front of me. So obviously someone's throwing a coin at me. Hence why I did the little wave, the 1 finger wave. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done anything because I'd already done enough by scoring the try. That was bad enough. Yeah, so one of those moments that made the Crusaders love me even more.
Spencer away on the left too.
In 2005, the man who had defined how the Blues style of play would be personified bid farewell to the team and the competition he helped build.
I think it was my time to leave. Like, things for me were starting to get a little bit frustrating the way things were going. I think we were just having too much changes. I probably knew I'd done all I can in a Blues jersey, and it was time for me to move on. I'm a proud Blues man. Mate, they've done so much for me, and to finish the way I did, mate, for me was not the way I wanted it to end, because I love that jersey and I've got so much respect for it. I would have loved to have finished in a better way, to be honest.
By the time that he finished, he certainly had seen himself as not just a leader of the Provincial Union of Auckland, not just a leader of the Blues, but also a great leader within the All Blacks as well. So really what we began to see over the years was, particularly with Super Rugby though, he shone the most because he could be himself. He could do everything that we've seen him blessed to be able to do. And he was a great leader by that time too. He was awesome.
The best 10 I played with, I put my All Black career down to having played inside of them, and you had a good relationship and a good understanding of each other. That's probably one of the only reasons I was there.
He revolutionised how the game was played and how first fives were perceived.
If I look through all of my highlights, I don't know how many of the last passes or kicks came from Carlos. You know, a huge influence on my career as a young player coming into the Auckland environment and to the Blues environment, and then as an All Black.
Now the chase is on. Counting again.
He's definitely one of the greats of Super Rugby.
Carlos Spencer.
He's true blue in everything, you know. He was true blue Auckland. So to be a player that played with Carlos, it's been pretty awesome. Yeah.
He's a bit of a trailblazer, wasn't he? And the way he played, his attitude, the things he did, and the success he had.